And the funny thing is, now that I've gotten to this point, the world is receiving me with a very beautiful place. Someone like you saying, hey, let's jump on a podcast. Other individuals, there are more clients, there's more things coming, money is finding me because I finally said yes to myself. And this at the core, this story, right, which I'm sure you would tear into in a second, is at the core of what energetics means. The underlying principle that connects everything in the world.
Hi, I'm the self-development coach, Johnny Lawrence, and welcome to the Self-Development Podcast. In this episode, I'm chatting with spiritual and executive coach, the energy guy, Adeyemi Adeyosoye. Adeyemi doesn't believe that you need new plans or strategies to attract your dream life to you. Instead, he thinks you need to find and commit to your soul's purpose and become a master at channeling energy. He went from cleaning toilets to working at the best tech companies in Europe and is now living his purpose. He believes this all happened because he leveraged the power of energetics. His passion for the power of energetics is so great that he now coaches men to live their life that they can be proud of and level up in all essential areas of their life. How are you today?
How are you doing, Johnny?
I'm
Amazing.
okay.
Good to be here, brother.
I feel a step behind today. I don't know why. So I'm going to be leaning on you quite a bit.
Let's wake up. Let's wake up. A few claps to kick off the energy around and everybody starts to move. Beautiful. No, it's good to be here, man. It's good to be here. I know we've been chatting a little bit back and forth. So great to be on the podcast, and hello to everyone listening.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You know, you call yourself the energy guy, and that's the only way I can describe it, really, is that you have an energy that does draw in and attract, and it's a real interesting thing. You know, I knew from the moment I sort of cottoned onto you on TikTok and Instagram that you were someone I'd love to talk to. So I'm really, really grateful for your time today.
I appreciate it, brother. Well, we're here, so let's do it. I'm here.
Yeah, I mean, for those that might not have come across you yet, will you tell people a bit about yourself and your journey so far?
First of all, I'm a man, and I'm a person who spends time trying to understand the question of why are we here in life. We'll get to that in a second. Background, though, was born in Nigeria. Left Nigeria, went to America for studies, and really hit the first road bump in life, right, where the family funds ran out. And I went to some of the best universities in America, ended up having to cut my way short. Found myself in Germany, Europe, started working cleaning toilets, like I said. And again, we can talk about any specific points you want to go into. But found myself cleaning toilets and really starting up from the bottom as a cleaner. All through my life, I've been really deep into energetic spirituality and all of those different things in life, because my main thing here, and the main thing I see as the reason for existence, is to understand why we exist and the driving force behind us. This gets me going for hours. So anyway, I find myself in Germany cleaning toilets, and I still remember the day where I was there and I went, this has to change, right? I remember I was cleaning the floor from, this lady had 2 children in the house, and I was just scrubbing the floors, and I went, no, I need to change this, right? I need to elevate. From that day, when I made my decision to change, literally things started happening like that, right? I could almost call in the next job. It's almost like it got to a point where I remember going home that day, speaking to my girlfriend and saying, hey, I want to work at another job. Right there and then, I made my application. 3 days later, I got the job, right? Things started to move very quickly. And this was because I was applying energetic principles. I'd realized that I'd read a lot of these different things about how to manipulate energy and connect to the field, the force. Again, we'll talk about a lot of these things in a second. But this is essentially getting into the law of attraction, the secret, and things of the sort, and going, how can we take this knowledge from being just cerebral knowledge to being actualized knowledge that we actually use in our lives, right? And this was something that I used immediately. Found myself going from being a cleaner to working at a shoe store. All of a sudden, like a month and a half later, I was working at a really top tier and forward-looking logistics company. And I was on track to making over $200,000 that year, right? And I remember, again, we'll talk about this in a second, but I remember walking to the shoe store once and going, I have a feeling that I'm going to get another job, and this job is going to come to me. I'm not going to look for it, and it's going to be way better than I can expect. A week later, that was when the logistics job came, right? And all of a sudden, things just led to me moving up. Obviously, there were a lot of ups and downs, but it led to me moving up, going into the tech world. And I found myself working in tech for about 5 years, and then got to a point where my soul started to die. And this was a very painful feeling to reconcile. I was in a long-term relationship with a woman I loved dearly. I was in a job that I thought I loved, in a career that I thought I loved. But for some reason, it felt like my walls started to fall in and I felt capped. And I really don't like when I feel capped. Felt capped. My soul started to shrink and I realized I wasn't living my purpose. I realized that I was going down a path that wasn't serving me anymore. And that led to a series of different things breaking: my job, leaving the country, leaving my relationship, all within a space of a month of each other. And that was a lot of chaos. And I actually remember the point this happened. I was going home from work one day and I remember my brain attacking me. And it was at that point I knew that something had to change, and everything broke, led to me going down deeper spiritual energy journeys, led to me facing myself and facing layers and layers and layers of myself to finally arrive into a point now where I can express myself fully into the world with the highest level of authenticity I've ever been able to share. And the funny thing is, now that I've got into this point, the world is receiving me with a very beautiful place. Someone like you saying, hey, let's jump on a podcast. Other individuals, there are more clients, there's more things coming. Money is finding me because I finally said yes to myself. And this at the core, this story, right, which I'm sure you would tear into in a second, is at the core of what energetics means, the underlying principle that connects everything in the world.
That is an incredible story. Thank you for sharing that. You know,
Thank you, man.
there's some real private moments there for you that I'm really grateful for you sharing.
Absolutely.
There's two phrases you use there that are just a really beautiful descriptive words, and one of them was you said that your soul was dying.
Yes.
And then the other thing you said was that you had a brain attack.
Yes.
They're incredible words. I mean, when you say your soul's dying, how did that feel?
This is that feeling when a man stares in the mirror and looks at himself but sees a shell of himself. That felt like being in an office with a group of great people, great employees, great colleagues that I could not connect with. That felt like absolute disresonance, right? And that felt like me having a lot of passion and a lot of things I wanted to come out, a lot of potential, but feeling muted. Not by anybody. Everybody wanted me to come up and spread and myself and all of that, but I could never do so because I wasn't in alignment with my soul's purpose. That felt like me going down a path that I thought made sense, even though it didn't really resonate with me. And it's a bit tough to describe actually, because it's almost like you get this sinking feeling in your chest and you wake up in the morning and it's like, oh, not again. But underneath not again, that's not the problem. The problem becomes, I actually don't know what else to do. I actually just feel stuck and confused. And that was my feeling where I went, oof, I'm a shell of myself here.
I would imagine that comes with some very like physical symptoms. When you're saying it, I can almost imagine there's fatigue, there's brain fog, there's all sorts of like low energy, I suppose.
It's pressure. And it's pressure mainly because of time. And I'm sure people listening to this are going to feel the same at some point. You really need to look around and go, am I feeling like I have a natural boost into what I'm doing? Do I feel like this is me? Or do I feel like I'm checking a box? Do I feel like I'm just going through the humdrum of life? It's very physical, but for me, it felt like pressure.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
you feel it mainly around your throat, into your chest, because the throat is the area of expression, right? And when you're not expressing your soul's purpose fully, you're not into it, your heart is going to just feel numb, and your throat is also going to feel heavy. You're not going to be able to just show up as yourself. You're going to be inauthentic. And everybody knows what it feels like to be inauthentic. It's clear. Now imagine doing that every day of your life. And a lot of people, instead of having the peak inauthenticity experience, what they're actually expressing is this low level humdrum of just a background noise of inauthenticity just going, and it just goes on. It's very monotonous. It's very deadening. It's very empty.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's funny you talk about you're asking yourself questions and stuff, and that's it. Quite often we've been conditioned in society to just put up with stuff, to just accept things that aren't for us. And it's that questioning that we dare to do sometimes for ourselves, where we say, like, is this for me? Do I want to be with this person? Am I enjoying
Yeah.
this job? You know, even when especially when it comes around family, you know, when there's boundaries around family, there's so many sayings, I suppose, or proverbs where they say, oh, you can't do that because that's your dad, or that's your mum, or that's your
Yes.
brother or sister. When
Yes.
actually, you know, what I heard you do, you made some serious decisions, some
Yes.
very big decisions that must have been so difficult to do.
So, and we need to get to the point of the name in the brain in a second. The decisions around family, one of the things I say to people is, you know, we come here to live a very individual life. Yes, granted, our mother and father brought us into this world and they did a lot to get us where we are. Ultimately, though, your soul's journey here on earth is yours. And it's extremely important for people to recognize that your journey is here, your soul is here for a certain journey, and you're here to express that. And that means facing judgment. That means failing. That means disappointing certain individuals. But we've been trained to avoid those feelings, to avoid those emotions, instead of being trained to recognize that so long as we're acting in our highest potential, in our highest path, right, with alignment, with integrity, with all of these different things, but in alignment with our purpose, it is okay to disappoint people. I'll give you an example. Because I didn't fully finish university, one of the things my father never let go from me was just the fact that I was a disappointment for doing that, because I was super smart in university, got all A's at some point. Just, I did it, right? I was in mechanical engineering, but the money dried out. Anyway, lots of disappointment on his part. And every single time I went down a different path, I realized I was doing certain things to please him, to please people around, right? The relationship is not working. I can see it's not working, but I don't want to disappoint her because of the imagination that we have put out there into the world. So we end up saying no to ourselves to say yes to someone else's vision of our lives, even though those people are only thinking about us really 10, 20% of the time. And I think it is fundamentally important. I get very passionate about this, actually. I might seem angry, but I'm not.
No, I love
I
it.
think
I
it's
love it.
fundamentally important for people to realize that we are here for a certain mission and for a certain level of soul expression. And it's our duty to find that and express it, even if that means disappointing other people. And the funny thing, right, is the disappointment, the judgment, all of these different things are the exact barriers that we need to jump through to identify our voice. An example would be, before I got into this kind of coaching and life coaching, energetics coaching, I was coaching people on crypto and investing and things of the sort, right? I was relatively good at it. And I found that a lot of people were I was helping people make money and giving them strategies on how to make money and things of the sort. And then I realized that those individuals could never really make money or connect to the energy of money because the energy was fundamentally off. And we had to do deeper work on an energetics basis, right, to realign them and remove the hurt, remove the pain, remove the traumas they'd gone through to be able to align them into a frequency that was more aligned with money generation. And again, let's talk about that a little bit later. Where I'm going at here, though, is oftentimes to get these people to be at their highest frequency, to be able to show up and connect to their higher self, what we usually have to do is go back and remove every single place where they're scared of judgment, where they have all these fears, and remove all of those different hotspots from their life and from their timeline for them to be able to show up. And back to the point of family, I think people have the whole concept of issues with family wrong. I think that our soul, we come here having chosen our family member, and again, this might be out there for your audience, but we come here having chosen our family members as the exact people that need to teach us the exact things that we need to learn to overcome, to express our highest potential in the world. Let me give you an example. Someone like myself, I have an ability to communicate. This is what I love to do. What traumas did I face growing up? Oppression by my father, because he was an extremely strong person. He didn't do it on purpose, but him expressing himself quietened my ability to speak. So I always doubted myself and doubted so many things. And there were little trauma points that essentially programmed me to fear expressing my full self, to fear communication. That is the contract with the family, because your family, if you notice, they're the ones that typically push certain buttons that hurt so much. But the moment you learn to overcome those buttons, nothing else in the world matches to it. So if your mother, for example, doesn't love you enough, and that hurts you, you end up showing up in the world in a way where you constantly need love, validation, and all of these different things. And as soon as you learn to take your power back by understanding the dynamics between you and your mother and processing that trauma and disconnecting from that, you go into the world and there is nobody that can affect your love anymore, because your family is the training ground. And people see it as like, oh my God, I need to run away from this. And that's where they make the mistake. You need to run into it. You need to go back in there, and instead of avoiding mom and dad and sister for all of these different things, you need to understand, what do they keep triggering in me? Because the moment you can express yourself in light of their triggers, all of a sudden, what you actually do, for the first time, you get introduced to your power. And when you get introduced to your power, you claim your power back. Because now, if you can express yourself fully to mom and dad in spite of their judgment, there is nobody in the world that holds the same weight. There is absolutely nobody.
Yeah.
But the moment you can't do it in your family, everybody else triggers the same thing in you, and you find yourself running around. And this is the work of energetics. So I just throw a lot at you out there. I'd let you digest that and let me know where you want to take it.
So yeah, I mean, I got this feeling there that, you know, like the emotions are sort of messages, and you're not reading them, you know, or not you, but people aren't reading them, or not reading them correctly. They're misinterpreting them. That thing you just said there about family being the original training ground, I can't tell you how much I resonate with that. I had a very challenging relationship with my father. He was very violent as a child. And for the first 25 years of my life, I allowed myself to believe that I was a fearful and weak person, because that's how I'd interpreted his behavior. That must mean that I am fearful and weak. Anyway, I later come to realize that actually that fear gave birth to bravery. And I was then able to be brave. And one of the things that I love about what you're saying there is that many people, much like I'm sure happens with you, they say very kind things about how I can inspire and I can help and all these different things through different mediums. I'm not sure I'm that person if I don't go through that experience.
Yes.
As a child. Now, don't get me wrong, it was horrible. It really was. It was a very, very difficult experience to exist through. Correct. But it definitely makes me the person I am today. Without that, I don't know if I've got the reason to be this person. You know, so I really do resonate with what you just said. That's I've never heard it put quite that way.
And it's totally aligned on that point. Is this point of looking at it as a gift? And I think framing is just fundamentally important, right? And a lot of people want to skim through this, and that's fine. Like, some people are going to do that, right? But for the people who really want to go in and step into their higher self, it's okay, what is the gift? I get angry with mom all the time. I feel this way. What is the gift?
Yeah.
And when you allow yourself to see the gift, then it becomes a gift. But if you don't see it, you're just going to keep. In your case, for example, maybe you'd have gone on and kept feeling weak. In my case, maybe I would have never started to speak and say what I do, right? And then end up not helping the people that I've helped to become millionaires in months, right? And all of these different things. And it's just, maybe there is a gift there. And our job is to find that gift. So for me, I love my father. Like, I had a conversation with him today. We speak almost every other day, and there's deep love there and deep respect. But in light of the good, there's always the bad. And we need to identify what that is and claim our power back, so we can have this union and this harmony of self to then express our highest version. There's this, actually, you go ahead and I'll save this concept because I know it's going to come up, and I'm going to bring it up when it's time.
Well, I wonder what your sort of thoughts are on ego, because I found that a lot of the time, and people misinterpret what I mean by ego. I'm not saying ego is good or bad. I think ego is very necessary. And in the past, I've believed that it's trying to keep me safe, but it doesn't always do what's best for me in that, if it takes that route. You know, it will try and keep me safe. It will try and look after me, but sometimes it makes decisions that aren't good for me, you know?
Yes.
And sometimes, a lot of the time, you'll come up against something like that, you know, like looking into somebody who's been unkind to you, or you feel has wronged you in some way. And your ego might say you deserve better, or you didn't deserve that, or you're better than this, or all those sort of things. And all it ever stops you from doing in them moments is leaning into exactly what you're talking about, is leaning into that pain, that discomfort, or that perceived pain and discomfort, in order to find out what you need to know in that moment in order to move forward, to release you, or to move on, or whatever. I found that every single time I've ever made ground in life where I've been happy, it's always been when I finally moved into that really uncomfortable place that I've been resisting for ages, and that resistance causes this conflict.
Yes.
That I then misinterpret that conflict as being depressed or unhappy or something being wrong, but actually it was all about the resistance. It was all about
Mm,
me not leaning into that thing that I
mm,
don't want to lean
mm,
into. So
mm.
let's get a clear definition of what energy is, energetic fields, and sort of the power of energetics in general.
Okay. I want to just highlight a quick point on ego.
Mm,
A lot of times we deal with the ripple effects of ego.
mm,
Only 10% of your ego, only about 10% of your ego really has a basis. Everything else are manifestations of that ego. It's like dropping a little rock in a pool, right? The ripple effect spreads rapidly, right? And you can go, right, that's a big wave, but what you really want to focus on is just that little rock that caused the wave. Because that little rock, right, say that's the concentrated part of the ego. That is the part that's actually there to keep you safe, because it's important at some point to go, no, I've had enough. I'm going to take the next step now, right? But it's important to realize that oftentimes the force that causes this ripple effect are fears because of traumas and because of positive experiences that have been magnified in your life, right? So it's important to just go, right, what is that specific thing? Where is this ego really saving me and protecting me, and lean in with that? Everything else, though, ignore. And whenever you face resistance, the way I see it is resistance is an opportunity to go deep.
mm,
If you're fighting your partner, like I'll say this for the men out there, for example, whoever's watching this, you're fighting your partner. You guys are going back and forth. The reason why the fight continues is people stay at the surface level.
yeah,
You did this, you did that.
yeah,
Instead of going, no, 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 that's my ego projecting to you. What really happened there is you hurt me and you activated something that made me feel pain. And this is where it feels in my body. And I am scared shitless.
yeah. Love that.
And as
Yeah,
soon as you just cross that little thing, you go deeper. This happened with me, like happened with someone who just had a massive fight. And I went, whoa, what's going on here? My ego was pushing away and I just leaned in. Deepest relationship we've ever had after that.
mm,
So if you look at the resistance and go, let's run because the ego says so, I challenge you to say, oh, no, no, that's an opportunity for depth. But
yeah.
that depth, you can only get it by authentically expressing how you feel. And when you do that, then you go deeper. So yes, we can transition to energetics. What was the question again?
Sorry, man. I always need a second afterwards. That's a lot of it. That is a really lovely way to put it. You have a real way of explaining yourself. It's just brilliant.
Appreciate you, brother.
Really, really do. And that rock ripple effect, that's definitely something I can resonate with.
Mm,
So the question I had there was just a bit of background, really, for people that might not quite understand what you mean when you say energy or energetic fields or the power of energetics. Just sort of get that helpful definition of what it all is and how it works.
cool. When people think about energetics, it sounds like this woo-woo term, right? Because we're going to start speaking about the quantum field, spirituality, all of these different things, right? And then it gets into the question of God and all of that. What we're really trying to say here is, what is the core principle that runs the whole universe? What is the core connector across everything in the universe? And if you look at the latest in quantum physics, when you take an atom and you break up an atom, you have three parts: electron, neutron, proton. When you break those, you start to get into quarks. When you break them and you break them, what you realize is there is nothing in any of these different atoms. It's just energy, right? And that energy, based on its profile, based on its magnetic and electric principles, organizes itself into you, me, things, microphone, computer, radio waves, light, because light, again, is just energy transmuting itself. It just does that. So we're saying, when I talk about energetics, is let's try to understand the core principle that governs the universe. And this is why I love this, right? Because it's an infinite game. Because I think a lot of people come here and think it's about life is about building companies, making money. It's great. Those are manifestations, though, of energetics. And this brings us down to the principle of as within, so without, as inside, so outside, as above, so below. And if we start to understand the energy, that there is literally one energy connecting everything and everything exists at the same time, and we get into the principle of quantum physics where there is no space and time and it's all energy and it's all potential, what this allows us to do is fundamentally orchestrate our life in any direction and towards any outcome of our choosing with accuracy. Because when we get into the field of energetics, one of the things that's at the core of energetics, you end up coming back into the feeling, into thought, and into our electromagnetic potential, which is essentially the heart. People don't know this, but the heart is an electromagnet with a diameter of 9 foot wide. It literally attracts things based on certain energetic profiles into our lives. So when we speak about energetics, we're talking about what is the connecting principle to everything in the world, and how can we use it, at least the way I see it, how can we use it to orchestrate our life?
Wow.
Questions on that? Because that goes a little bit deep, and I want to know exactly how I can help you understand this.
No, I mean, I feel like I have the understanding that I can understand at the moment.
Yes.
Because it feels like something that as you understand one thing, you then have questions about the next thing, and it goes on and on and on, infinite, as you put it before. But I mean, so that feels like it can give you so much more autonomy in life, because
Yes.
you meet those people that they complain about everything.
Mm.
You might go to work and you might avoid them because every time you speak to them, they want to tell you all their problems.
Correct.
How do you feel that type of energy impacts the world or impacts their life and other people's?
So the core principle here, and there was this man, fascinating, right? It took a company to unicorn status in 18 months, $250 million in revenue, without raising more than a pre-seed round. His name is Robert Edward Grant. He was the CEO of Bausch and Lomb, the pharmaceutical company, right? Everybody should check this guy out. He's literally solving Leonardo da Vinci level mathematics in the world today. And it's interesting because you can see a man who's fully actualized, combining the principles of energetics and business. And one of the principles he has found, we'll get to this answer in a second. One of the things he has found is the universe is not so much the universe as much as it is the U inverse. So your experience in this life, this is why you go, how come John over there is making a lot of money and I'm not? And I'm negative Nancy over here and everything is terrible for me. But positive John, who's just going through life, showing up as himself, he just attracts and he just makes money, has the women, has everything he wants to do, and his life seems great. That is because his outward expression, it's connecting and is a little bit different from your outward expression because of his internal resonance, his internal energy profile. So if we look at the 1 over X principle, the U inverse, if the world is the U inverse, all we need to realize is where's our energetic space internally, because the world is mirroring that back out to us. This is why if you see people who are negative, they always have something to complain about.
Yeah.
Because they are continually, again, back, remember, the heart is an electromagnetic engine that pulls things into your field based on energetic resonance. So if your heart, this is scientific, by the way, this is measured. If your heart is constantly pulling things to you based on your frequency, based on your state of vibration, if you're in a negative state of vibration, you're going to keep pulling that to you, and you're going to keep pulling those experiences to you, right? And that's what you're going to see all over you and around you in the world. So the people who have that negative profile, all they're doing is literally just staying in a loop.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault. I need to caveat this point. People have a lot of bad things that have happened to them. Traumas, fears, pain, all of these things. Those are real. And because of those experiences, sometimes they end up having no choice but to live in a perpetual state of negativity. Because they have certain experiences that project into their universe and they cannot unseat it. Question.
How does that choice get taken away?
The choice gets taken away when they grow up. They go through traumatic experiences. They go through hurt, right? It doesn't really get taken away. It's more so a decision they made. So between the ages of 2 and 7, a child is in its mental development state, and their brain is typically in alpha brain waves. When you're in alpha brain waves, the subconscious literally runs 95%, actually 100% of the brain, right? This is kind of that state between awake and asleep, right? This is why when you see children playing around with toys, to them, that's totally real because they're in alpha state.
Mm.
In that state, though, that is the state of highest programmability. So when I work with men, and I'm working with someone who's in his 40s, actually all my clients are around that age. Anyway, working with someone who is in his 40s, they can't access memories past a certain point, usually lower than 7, right? Because that's the point where the subconscious mind switches to conscious mind. In that state of 2 to 7, typically there are traumatic experiences that happen. It might be as simple as your father saying, "Hey, shut up." Or it might be as simple as you being ignored. That leads them to go, I see the world in a certain way, and they make a decision in that point. That decision becomes a program that runs ad infinitum. And it starts to go like that in cycles. Check this out. Remember, I talked about the U inverse.
Mm.
U inverse. What is inverse in a mathematical term? We'll get a little bit complex here. Stay with me. What is an inverse in a mathematical term? 1 over a number. What they've seen is that if you take 1 over any number, there's only one number that doesn't do this. 1 over any number, you will get 0 point some pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. That pattern is going to repeat forever. If you now look at your DNA, the DNA has been proven to be binary code, which has a certain number signature. 1 over any number gives you a pattern that runs in your holographic universe. That pattern gets programmed by parents and parents' experiences, traumatic experiences.
Wow.
That pattern, based on the trauma and the decision you made, runs in your life and just goes like that and goes like that. For some people, it's every month. For some people, it's every relationship. For some people, it's every client. It just goes, right? And that then leads to negativity, which reinforces that thing going on and on and on and on. And that's why you see people who go, I don't know why I can't break out of this. I have money, but I don't know why I'm not happy. What the hell is going on? And the job is to identify the pattern and go back to the traumatic experience, go back to what happened, remove the linchpin, and then start to change in real time how they show up. Because what you're actually doing here is you're manipulating your energetic profile. You're manipulating your quantum expression. And as a result of that, remember again, holographic universe, 1 over X, so many different possibilities. You now start to condense your new reality into your life by bringing in one new relationship, one better client, one better thought process. And all of a sudden, the person goes from being in a very bad state to where they want to go. It condenses.
Wow.
And this is tying all the different principles of trauma, energetics, the holographic universe. And it's a little bit deep, but I hope that gives you a round table, around view on the whole thing.
Wow, absolutely nailed that. I totally, I mean, there might be some listeners that might want to listen to that a couple of times because there's a lot of information there. But if you can get your head around that, that makes so much sense. That really does make so much sense. I mean, for me, it's like, you know, I felt myself when you were talking about the time between 2 and 7.
Yes.
For the first time on this podcast, I felt a wave of emotion, you know, that I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening here? And that's because that for that time period was when a lot of significant violence happened for me. I was locked inside of things and held underwater and all sorts of things that I won't go too deeply into. But the reason I got that emotion, I think, is because I felt compassion. Thought to myself, wow, you know, no wonder I had that way of thinking for such a long time, you know, because I was not negative, but I didn't trust anyone. I mean, anyone, like anyone at all. And I always had negative expectations of every experience and every person. So that's really interesting to me. That really is.
The funny thing there, right, is, and for anyone listening who's gone through whatever they've gone through, you can heal it. You can get out of wherever you are. And it could be something minor. It doesn't matter. And people try to compare traumas all the time. Oh, he had it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's one experience. It's one experience. That's what it is, right? And I see this with some clients of mine who get to a point where they go, I don't know if I can heal. And someone said this to me. It was like, I'm like, okay, money is not your problem. You want to do this. What's going on? And he went, I don't know if I can heal. And I'm telling you, for anyone there, it's very possible. And the way you do it is you go back like you just had a bit of an epiphany and you start to feel those emotions, because there's a version of you that is trapped, that has felt emotions that has not been able to express, and it's there. And this introduces us back to the principle of the quantum timeline, where nothing exists. There is no space. Time and space does not exist. Everything happens at the same time. So if you have past experiences, again, proven by science, if you have past experiences, those experiences, they just stay stuck and they just follow you for the rest of your life. But the good thing about this is you can literally go back in time to release those experiences. And the time machine to do this is your feelings. This again now ties back to the energy signature of feelings. Because once you can start expressing those feelings, I mean, there are people who do this, they do this and all of a sudden they start losing weight. All of a sudden money starts coming in their life. It's like you go back, release the feeling, and then you can start to show up in happiness. So like as you're having that bit of compassion for yourself, it's super important, man. And releasing that puts you in a state of just higher vibration. That's the linchpin.
You're incredible, you are. Tell you what. Amazing. Let's try and get some focus here for me.
Cool.
So
point me in a direction.
So when it comes to energy,
yes,
there'll be people that have found all that absolutely mind blowing, like I have, and might not, it's gonna take a while for them to process it as it is me. But when the time is right for them and they feel like they've got their head around that, how can they protect that energy and better still harness it? How can they start now they have an understanding of energy fields, the power of energetics? How can they start putting that to work?
Become absolutely ruthless about your energetic space. People think because it's all spiritual and I talk about spiritual things, it doesn't mean you need to be ruthless. No, you do, because you operate in a 3D world. And it's important that you be like I did this recently, right? I'm doing a whole spring cleaning, 7-day spring cleaning process. I'm cleaning out clothes and my identity as a representation of identity, cleaning out food, cleaning out friends, cleaning out relationships, cleaning out even words that I speak. So for example, you see someone, they wake up and they do this in the UK. Hey, how are you? Not too bad. What do you mean? 2 words you've put in there, not and bad. Why have you put 2 negative words to cancel out each other? Why can't you say I'm amazing? Try that. Yeah. Or try this. Try saying yes all the time. Get into the energy of yes. Do you want that? Yes. Look at yourself in the morning. Yes, yes, yes. Just feel the energy that creates in the yes, yes, yes. Just feel that. It's a spark. Use electrifying words to create a spark into yourself. Magnificent, miraculous, abundant, in flow, spirited. That you already feel it. You already feel the switch versus not too bad. I'm all right, thanks. What do you mean all right? It's like drinking a lukewarm tea. It's nonsense.
I love that. I love the passion as well. Love that passion, man. I love it.
And it's in the Bible, right? And again, anyone who's reading it, it's like you either be hot or cold. If you're lukewarm, I would spit you out. So let's not be lukewarm with our voices and our words. Words are extremely important. And again, this might get too woo-woo for everybody. If you go to what you call words, right? Spellings. It's a spell. You're casting a spell into your energetic field. So be very cautious with what you say. That is one of the first, and this is actually funny enough how I filter a lot of people in my life. If someone comes around me and I ask you, how are you doing? And you give me this very down tone, I know you're energetically low. Go look at the players. Go look at the A players. I'm great. I'm amazing. I'm better and better. I'm fantastic, man. Those are it's crazy.
No, you're mate, absolutely. I totally agree.
And people don't realize this. So I'm in the sauna oftentimes and someone comes in and is just complain. Cut it out. Another thing actually people can do, again, you have a lot of men who listen to your podcast, right? Okay, cool. Let's go there a little bit. Another thing people can do is, first of all, cut out complaining. This is very interesting because when you go 1 week without complaining, you realize how many times you want to vomit negativity into the world. You would catch yourself, and it's actually very difficult. And you find yourself going down to speak to your partner and just go, oh, I want to come. Don't express it.
Wow.
Keep the negativity inside. And when you keep the negativity inside, you can alchemize that into positivity. And now you start to gain control of the negative experience, and it comes into you as a negative experience, and you express it as a positive experience. All of a sudden, you start to shift your energy. Remove the people in your life who are negative. Change the words you use. Walk faster. Obviously, go to the gym. I go to the gym almost every single day because energy starts first from the densest part of your body. What do I mean by that? Your physical body. Get up. Once you can charge your energy in that level, it goes to the next level. Mental. Your thoughts start to get better. It goes to the next level. Spiritual. Right? It doesn't come spiritual, mental, body. It goes body, mental, spiritual. And emotionally, it rises up that way. So that's how it starts. The final thing, and there's a lot of fat around, there's a lot of stuff around this, right? It's semen retention. If you can keep your sexual energy, you're going to find yourself, you're going to have an extra charge and your energy is going to go up. This again is proven. This has been going on for the ages, right? We don't need to go too deep into that, but that is another way to tactically and physically cultivate more energy in your life. So be very ruthless with what you put in your body, what you express into the world, and make sure you just stick into the high vibration of what you want. Remove the bad people around you, the people who express these negativities around you. If they can't change, they got to go. Right. And then you can start to you'll find yourself immediately, naturally just shift to a point where your energy is contained. You're being charged up because you're doing the right things for yourself. And you also have a deeper respect for yourself now because you've cut out the things that no longer serve you. And all of a sudden, you will just start to find your energetic profile will go up. You add that with some fantastic words and just this high energy of how you show up, you're literally going to find things are going to switch. Naturally, there's a lot of deeper things that you can do there. And the best thing you can do to release your energy is to go work on your traumas. And it's to go allow yourself be authentically you. Mm-hmm. The next best thing you can do is everything else I said.
Man, you never disappoint when it comes to a good answer, man. You really don't. Oh,
Appreciate it, brother.
No, I mean that's interesting. Especially, I know you probably don't want to. We have a lot of female listeners too that might be like, oh, but I find that interesting that you say because about sort of semen retention. Did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that speaks to some of like athletes that are told not to have sex before fights or before games and stuff. That's interesting, really interesting.
That is, if anyone's interested in that, you can find me and I'm happy to share some more information there. It's a polarizing thing for sure. The way I approach things though is I don't just take things that I listen to, right? It's actually practiced. And anything that I say on this podcast, it's like, great, it's fine, but actually try it. Just try it for 7 days. Try it for 2 weeks and see where you feel, right? Try containing negativity for a week and see how you feel. Try saying yes, yes, yes in the morning and yes, yes, yes before every meeting and commanding the word with yes. And if it works for you, great. I'm willing to bet with anybody that it's going to work.
I mean, it feels a lot like, slowing down sort of when it comes to being responsive, reactive, whatever. So just being really aware, bringing some awareness to what goes in, what goes out, which again is energy, right? So Correct. It's really starting to go full circle for me. I really understand what you're trying to say there.
Can I say one thing on the awareness?
Mm-hmm.
The reason why it's very important. And this was really something that changed how I showed up, right? Was to stop myself between taking in and expressing. Because even like I look at life actually like a breath. Everything is a breath. You breathe in, you breathe out. You breathe in love, you breathe out love to your partner. You breathe in money, you breathe out efforts. Like there's this kind of dance in life. You breathe in information, you breathe out teaching. There's this kind of dance that happens with life. So when you breathe in situations and experiences in life, right? The general thing that I used to do is just vomit that out in a negative way and unprocess it. When you stop and you think about it, you process, you bring awareness in, what you're actually doing is you are connecting at that moment to your higher self. And that literally, if anybody takes anything out of this podcast, that is one of the most important things, to drive a wedge between the experience and your reaction. Because in that wedge, what you do is you create a space, and this space becomes the point where your highest potential energetically can come in and decide. And the more you cultivate that, the more you connect with that version of you who operates in that space. That is your highest energy person to go, is this how I want to show up? And just little questions like that is what is just going to make the changes. So I really love that term of awareness because I really see it as you have an experience, you have an expression, there's a gap between, your job is to wedge it in between, and that's where you have all your choice.
See, I can hear somebody now driving along the motorway, listening to this conversation, and they say, yeah, but how do you do it? Because what I get is I get a lot of clients and a lot of friends, actually, a lot of family members that will say, what they will describe to me sounds like a compulsion. It sounds like they are voluntarily giving away autonomy. They're like, I can't control it. I feel like I'm out of control. And some people, it's a real trend at the moment, especially on TikTok, where people are getting you to take ADHD or neurodiversity quizzes to see if you've got ADHD. And a lot of people are doing that, there are people that have ADHD, but not everybody does, but a lot of people are sort of giving away power by saying, well, I can't help it. I can't help it. It's like that whole, I was drunk, that type of stuff, and people walk around in this state where they feel like they do not have control, and they will double down and they will commit. I love this. They will double down and they will commit to that ideology. I don't have control. I wasn't in control. It wasn't me, whatever. Right. So I would love to know what you would say to those people.
This is the point. This is it. So I love this. The thing here that I will say to them is understand that you choose everything in this life. You choose everything in this life. That can be a very tough thing to swallow, tough pill to swallow. Because you go, oh, I chose this terrible life driving this terrible beat up car. Yes, you did. I chose to be cheated on. Yes, you did. I chose to give away my power away. Yes, you did. The key is not to judge yourself for choosing. And if you want it, again, everything should be practiced, right? If you want to change that, witness your choice. For the next 7 to 14 days, witness your choice. Girlfriend came in the house, you reacted, you got angry. I chose to be angry. Just witness it, brother, sister. Just witness it. Just listen to yourself and go, don't judge it. Where people get it wrong is they start to judge too early. Just witness first. When you witness, you're going to see the pattern of how you give away your autonomy, how you give away your agency, because you're going to go, oh, I chose to drink yesterday. When did I make the choice to drink? When Harry came with a beer? Did I initially want to drink before that? No. Yeah. What made me decide to? Harry said, hey, come on, like we used to do old time. Why did I cave when he said, like we used to do in the old times? Is that because I want Harry to still love me based on the past expression of myself? Or is this in alignment with myself? Witness. Okay, next week, someone else does something. Witness. When you have a series of different witnesses, you're going to see your pattern, and you're going to actually see where you choose. The reason people give away agency and they say, I can't, is because they're not seeing where they made the choices. And all you have to do is sit there and go, I made that choice. I made that. Interesting. I have a client of mine, right? And he reached out to me the other day. This is the guy who never made more than $6,000, completely was disconnected from money. I was going, how do I make this happen? I worked with him for 8 months. He makes $1 million, right? In 20-something years of work, he never crossed a certain amount because his energetic profile was off. That being said, talks to me the other day and he's like, I'm in such a better place. I'm like, what are the signs of this happening? He's like, when someone used to cut me off on the road before, I used to get very angry and I would just plow myself into aggression. And all of a sudden, I'm there for 6 hours, still angry, still carrying it on. But when I got him to finally start to choose and start to witness his choices, he now was able to, first of all, witness his reaction and then make a choice. So when that happened, he was like, that didn't get me anymore. And it wasn't that moment. It was the 6 hours after that he preserved. Because what happens to a lot of us is we go about our days and we're completely numb. We just wake up, we take a shower, we forget the day, and then we remember before we go to bed. It's like, oh, I existed today, and you go to bed. Your goal is to witness your choices so you can see your patterns. And this is a core concept to me because it sounds so easy. It really sounds easy. But try it. When your wife pisses you off or someone does something at work, try to witness yourself and you see how hard it is. That's where the power is.
You see, I don't think it does sound easy. And I think that's why people that's why people avoid it. That's why people don't want to do it, because what you've just said, I can't articulate how much I agree with what you just said. But it's really hard for someone to hear that type of thing. Quite ironically, makes people angry, Because I remember working with a client a little while ago who had been the victim of adultery. And what was interesting is, had I have stopped for a moment, I probably could have predicted it because of the way he was behaving and the choices he was making. He wasn't open to being challenged on it. But when I thought about it, I thought he didn't give his partner a lot of choice. And also he nudged them towards it. It was almost like he was pushing them towards it.
Painful.
He couldn't hear that. He couldn't hear that. But interestingly enough, once that ego had been obliterated, once he realized that this thing had happened, and how he felt about it, and that feeling that he had, once he had that, he was open to having conversation about it. And once we started exploring it, I could see the realization come over him. But the bit that I felt he was resisting against is that he did not want it to be true. He didn't want it to be true. So he was fighting for it to not be true, even though it was. And I was sitting there and I was watching this thinking, this is interesting. This is interesting. This is really interesting. And all of a sudden it came out. And what I saw was he slowly but surely started to take accountability. Slowly but surely.
That's powerful, man.
Started to take accountability very slowly, really, really slowly. But where I noticed the accountability being taken was as he was talking, he would stop himself. And he would pause and he would stop. And it was like a consideration of, is this true? Or is this just a programming that I've been running for a long time? And it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. It really, really was.
It's like for me, myself, what it takes to be really authentic in life and to show up as your full self means taking full accountability.
Oh, yeah.
And it means seeing the ugliness of yourself. But when you see the ugliness of yourself, you can appreciate the beauty. Yeah. So it's this interesting thing where you go in and you see, okay, wow, I caused that. I hurt that person. I did this. I'm not showing up here. It's confronting the ugly parts of yourself. And that's authenticity, is to go, I have all of these different parts, but I'm open to just actually seeing myself in that regard, right? And for some people, unfortunately, it takes a complete ego obliteration for that to happen. I don't know about you, but one of the things I run away from is ego obliteration. So in fact, one of the reasons I'm in like personal development, all of these different things, like I don't want to be in that position where this happens. No, right? It's like I want to avoid that as much as possible. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Beautiful. Yeah. So this client now, has he moved on from that?
He's working through it. Yeah. It's difficult. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to protect client confidentiality.
That's right. Totally. It's just something that it's nice that you're able to help him through that.
Yeah.
And I bring it up because that's powerful. Right. And it's nice to see that someone is able to go in, start to realize things, change, and show up differently. That's beautiful. We can move on.
Yeah, well, just on the last thing, the bit that I think was really powerful was I remember him saying to me quite some time ago, I trusted her, I trusted her. And I said, is that true? And he said, well, what do you mean? Of course it is true. I said, yeah, but did you trust her or did you just not believe she would do it? Because if you believe that she wouldn't do it, then it wasn't a choice. And I think that's what opens up when you start to recognize the bad parts of yourself, the bits of yourself that you don't like or don't want to be true, you're now making real choices.
Yes.
Because that in some situations you can be a dick, right? But you don't want to admit that you can be a dick. So now you're actually choosing not to be a dick, which is actual real choice.
Yes.
So I love that. I love the way you explained that. It's brilliant.
Yeah, choice is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, choice. And it's like a lot of people have this like illusion of choice. They think they're making choices, but they're not. They just don't believe the other thing's going to happen or is possible or whatever. But actually, when you start, like as you say, when you start to acknowledge those parts of yourself where you can be a bit of a dick, then you start to realize that, like you said, you start to have compassion and love yourself because you're like, I could do this now, but I'm going to choose not to. I'm going to choose to be compassionate or kind.
For sure. And it's good to have the choice. I think everything has its place, even being a dick sometimes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's time to be a dick here or just be a little bit harder here. And it's like, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
Right. And that also, like, I don't really see any good or bad experiences or good or bad expression, obviously in the extreme cases for sure. But it's like, hey, I'm going to be a dick here. Okay, great. Do it. And where did I get you? And you decide. And if you want to continue with that, great. And there's some times where you need to sprinkle a little bit of pepper
Mm.
on an otherwise salty meal. And it's like, okay, do that, and see what happens. Uh,
Yeah. Ah, great conversation. This really
uh,
is. Okay, so we had a whole bunch of questions. We've completely gone off script, which is wonderful. I always love it when it happens. But
Beautiful.
I did want to get into, I mean, I think you might have covered it, to be honest. When you talk about past experiences,
Mm.
they can often shape our present. And is it possible to release those past experiences? That releasing part. So we talk about looking into the trauma. Let's call it trauma as a past experience, because I
Sure,
suspect that's what people are going to be really interested in.
sure.
How can you do that? How can you release that? You go back, you revisit it, and you want to release it. What's that process?
I have come to know that releasing past experiences is basically the biggest thing you can do. And I have come to know that past experiences are exactly what's keeping you or whoever else is out there from achieving their highest potential. And this again will go down to my client, who I saw never made more than 6 grand. Every time he made more than 6 grand, and this would people would experience this, every time he made more than 6 grand, he fell sick. Something happened in his life. Chaos came.
Mm.
That's because he hit what's called a money ceiling, right? Energetically. He got to a level where he was so far away from what he thought he could achieve that energetically he became uncomfortable. And something had to manifest to cool him back down. Sickness, lost job, something had to manifest. I had this in my life. Whenever I was about to cross 10K, something happened. There was a cut. And you've probably seen this with people where they go, I've been doing the same thing. And it's like, I can't break the ceiling. That is your energetic ceiling that calibrates relative to your past experiences. And the only way you break through is by cutting the baggage you're carrying so you can have better propulsion going up. And then you go, okay, well, what's the baggage I'm carrying? Trauma, because
Mm.
that's showing up as heightened anxiety when you get into bigger rooms to close bigger deals. That's showing up as fear when it's time to go deep into love and fully sexually express yourself so you can feel fully wanted and open and accepted. Those are the baggage points.
Mm.
And because on the quantum field, space and time does not exist, you can always go back in time through feelings and thoughts. What you definitely want to do is you want to go and cut that. And this is what happened with my client. He goes, we're trying to make money. Nothing is working. Has tried, has tried, has tried. What's the problem? Let's go into your trauma.
Mm.
Within 2 months of working on trauma, he made his first 250K. It was
Wow.
like that. It was so crazy that the people he was billing told him to bill his contracts comfortably for him, basically saying, write your own check. And it was like, I couldn't believe this. Funny enough, he's at that level of calibration now, 250K or so, right? Starts to perform, starts to get bigger deals and big opportunities. Anxiety starts to creep back in. He hit another ceiling.
Mm.
We now have to go in, stabilize that, take him to the next level. So there are always levels of baggage that needs to be released for you to accelerate. And the way that works is by going back. I do this through inner child healing. I do this through regression. And there's an energetic alchemy that sometimes happens with clients where I would even start to feel the problems and the pains they have. Sometimes I'm on a call and I just start to cry when my client is releasing something. So the way it works is about guiding you back into your experience to go, what happened? What was the feelings that happened that you felt? What are the feelings you haven't expressed?
Yeah.
And going deeper, because what happens is someone will say, hey, there's a feeling of fear, right? So I guide someone in, we're now at the ages of 10 or so, and it's feelings of fear. Okay, great. What's under the fear? I don't feel accepted. What's under the fear? Hurt. What's under that? What's under the hurt? Ah, I don't feel like I'm wanted. What's under not being wanted? I feel worthless.
Mm.
Okay. So now when you show up in those rooms, worthlessness is what creeps up. And worthlessness shows itself up as anxiety. And people go solve anxiety instead of solving worthlessness. Or you can't get to worthlessness without going through not being wanted, hurt, fear, all of these. And this was what happened to me. So you have to go back, identify those. And this is why you have people who have to guide others through it, right? Feel it. It's important to feel those feelings. And what generally happens with clients is we go back to these memories, and oftentimes it's tough, right? But I guide people in a very cool, smooth manner. They go back into those feelings, and all of a sudden it just starts to pour out of them. And they're like, oh my God, I've never seen this before. Underneath all of those feelings is the final thing, the decision they made. What did you decide was true about the world? And how did you decide to show up from here on? For some people, it's I'm never going to trust anybody fully again. For some people, it's they're never going to see me. For me, it was I can't trust my voice. Even though that's the most powerful thing you have. So you go back into that, you go through the different levels of feelings, and it's so many, right? Some people is what so many things. You release those things, then you go into the decision. You again start to reprogram that decision, and this you have to do on a very deep brainwave vibration. It's almost like you're almost asleep at this point, right? Almost like hypnosis. You reprogram it at that level, and then the person can start to show up differently. And what generally happens, like it happened for my client, I'm in these boardrooms with these big people, and like, I'm not scared of them anymore. He's like, I tripled my prices. I'm not worried about it anymore. And the funny thing, remember what I said at the start of this conversation, as within, so without. Whatever you feel inside is projected out into the world, right? When he did that and he 3x his prices, he expected pushback from his counterparty. They did not push back. They signed. There was no negotiation. Because he was finally a match for the levels he wanted to be. So there's a whole process here, but it's going back, feeling, decision, removing that, and then choosing how you want to show up. And then you execute, because at the end of the day, you need action. You can't just do the work and not show up in the world and expect something to change. It doesn't work that way. So you have to remove the hurt, pain, but you still have to go out and love somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can hear commonly used words like self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, all of those words sort of basically circumnavigating that experience that you've just described.
Yes.
You know, because I adopted a belief about 5 or 6 years ago that if somebody else in this world can have something, if I'm willing to put in the work, if I'm willing to put in the effort and be patient, then I can have it too. And what I found is that very often with people and clients, once I adopted that attitude, I realized that a lot of the time people don't achieve things for two reasons. One is fear of failure. The other one is fear of success, but mainly because they're not ready to put in the work that the other person's willing to put in, or more, or whatever, you know, and then they classify that as failure because they don't want to look at that part of themselves that says, I don't want to do that. Or, you know, and sometimes that bit that doesn't want to do it, it might be the right decision. You know, but they're obsessed with the outcome instead.
I really like the thought of playing an infinite game. And this is now taking us back into purpose. The reason why a lot of people don't know their purpose is because the trauma acts as onion layers on top of their purpose. They can't hear their purpose. That's why you ask someone, what's your purpose? I don't know what it is. I just show up in these different ways. I don't know. I can't figure it out. Because it's not, you don't get a treasure map in life that says, hey, that's where your purpose is. Go find it. No. It's under onion layers. And the only way you allow it to come through is by doing the trauma work, doing the healing and all of those different things. Because what you do when you do that, you get to see your true self. And when you get to see your true self, you get to hold space for your authentic expression. And when you start to express yourself authentically, fully and freely, you start to get into a certain energetic alignment and resonance that all of a sudden you start to go, I'm gravitating here. This is working. And what you find is one part will start to work a little bit more. One part will feel a little bit easier. But also, for the first time, you will start to gain the courage to actually step into your purpose, because your purpose is the most difficult thing that someone can do. Because to fully live your purpose means to fully confront every aspect of yourself. Because again, remember, the purpose is mastering an onion. Right? And if you take that onion as what I talked about when I talked about communication, your gift comes as the trauma. And when you can unravel the trauma, you find the gift. That gift leads to the purpose. So is this domino effect, which is why I go back and say, no, go back to your family. Go back there. That's where the power is. Because as you unravel it, all of a sudden you start to identify your gift and you go, oh, this is interesting. I like expressing this. I can feel my heart again. This is lovely, amazing. And then you start to go in and it's like, I feel charged here. This is nice. I wonder if I can make money doing this. Then you go down a rabbit hole thinking about how you can make money doing it. I wonder how I can. Next thing you know, you go, I think I found my purpose. And for the first time, you can hear yourself. because you've removed all the mufflers. And now you're going, oh, I can hear my purpose.
Yeah, man.
And this is how this whole game links. And it's this intricate web. Like I say to people, even how you express yourself sexually is a sign of how you show up into the world. If you cannot fully express yourself authentically in a sexual engagement or whatever that is with someone of trust, and you can't do that without judging yourself, you cannot fully express yourself in the world. Because again, slightly off tangent, super important point though, when you get into sexual energy, the base energy of the whole world is sexual energy. The base energy of the whole world. The reason why you have banking systems and companies and land and growth and all of these things and ego is because they're all derivatives, second, third, fourth order derivatives of the core energy, which is sexual energy. So if you cannot fully express sexual energy, you cannot fully express your will or what you want into the world, and you cannot receive. Wow. This again ties to purpose, because once you identify your purpose and you're able to express yourself fully across all the different layers of yourself, and finally you can express your purpose fully and then start to receive whatever you want in compensation, and then your life starts to get better.
Man, I think I'm gonna.
So many tangents.
Yeah, no, but it's man, you make me feel like I could do anything. Honestly,
but I really believe that. I've seen people. Another person I worked with, right, had $0. They were repossessing his home. Did a few coaching bits, started to change things, and he went from that moment. 18 months later, made $3.5 million.
Damn! Wow.
I was like, that's crazy. Another client of mine, $1 million in 8 months. I have a video of him crying on the phone saying, thank you so much. And I'm like, it's not me, man. It's you. You're just recognizing yourself. I have other people who've gone and and this is also another point on what you talked about. You said something about putting the work hard long enough. The reason why I talked about purpose and all of these different things is because when you live in your purpose, the second thing that I like to do is play an infinite game. Because if I'm here to do this and this is my purpose, then this is the one place where I'm happy to play an infinite game. I'm happy to talk about this for the rest of my life. Heck, I chose this field because I could do it forever.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I have staying power and I'm not working hard. I'm just expressing long. And it's like, it's beautiful. I'm going to have a 15-hour day today because I want to.
Yeah.
Before that, you couldn't get me to work. So when people say all of these different things, it's like, okay, now you play an infinite game. Your energy is higher. Your heart electromagnetic field is pulling things into you. All of a sudden, you can show up with a level of intensity plus stamina that just makes it effortless.
Yeah.
And this is where people now start to go, oh my God, magic is happening. In 3 months, I know someone, I gave him some coaching. 3 months later, he 3x's his income. Because now everything starts to match up. But if it didn't happen in 3 months, he was going to be there for a year and he was still going to keep going. Because he has stamina.
It's alignment, isn't it? It's alignment. Yeah. Oh, incredible. Man, I could listen to you for hours, but unfortunately that would be a very long podcast.
No, this is beautiful. But it's been good to speak about so many things. And this 21 listening, I know we're about to wrap up. This is the most important thing in life, in my opinion. And again, that's just me. I love this. I've seen so much benefit from here. And it's really fascinating how much lives can change by stepping into this field. So if you have other questions for me, I'm happy to go in there. I just know that this is beautiful. And I really implore everyone, if you're listening to this, everything is possible. There's a block between you and that possibility. Dedicate the next couple of months to finding that and just watch things start to change. Don't play around. Don't beat around the bush. Don't solve anxiety when you're meant to be solving worthlessness. Go straight for the problem. It might hurt a little bit, but stick it out for 3 months, release it, and all of a sudden watch life express itself beautifully to you.
I was about to ask you if there's anything you'd like to pass on that could help people with their self-development, but I think you just did.
Yes, this is it.
So last question, what's next for you and where can people find you?
Best way to find me would be on Instagram. There's also a website, but it's just my name, at Adeyemi Adeyosoye, Adeyemi, Adeyosoye. If you type in the energy guy on Instagram, you should find me. I'm going to be the black man with a heart, hand on his heart. What's next? I'm coaching a lot of people at the moment. I plan on doing this for a while, right? So I'm going to launch other programs. I'm going to launch other things to specific conditions. But I really see it as bringing energetics to the front and center of the business world. Because what you have is, you have a lot of people in spirituality on one end, derelict, broke, no money. You have a lot of people in the business community, rich, no relationships, poor internal systems, just poor feelings. The goal is to bridge both, and it's to provide a space where people can come in and go, right, let's talk about the next AI tools and how you can use that to grow your business and all of those different things. But also let's face the main reason we're here, right? And let's discuss that. So for me right now, I'm on a mission to help as many people level up as possible. And this is my infinite game. I'm just going to keep playing this, and I don't see an end in sight.
I love that answer, man. Yeah, I believe you as well. Yeah, you've got a lot of energy and power, I think, and you're going to pass it on to many people and help many people. I can only imagine by the time it's all said and done, how many people you would have helped, man. That's incredible.
I appreciate that, man. And it's, if I die and if I'm on my deathbed and I think about 1,000 people, 1,000 lives changing after interacting with me, I'll die happy. And it's not about the ego necessarily. It's just about going, there's possibility. It's nice to see people recognize it. And I literally get tears when I see someone step into their power. It's like, it's the most beautiful thing to see in the world. So I'll be happy to die like that.
Oh,
I hope I do more than 1,000.
I was going to say, that's being modest. I think it's going to be hundreds of millions.
1,000.
It's going to be a lot more than that. Listen, brother, I'm so grateful for you today. It's been an incredible podcast. I've really enjoyed it, and I hope to get to do it again someday.
Beautiful. We can have version 2 of quantum mechanics.
Yeah. We have to do a little series.
And if people, if anyone wants to reach out and send an email, maybe to yourself or myself, and maybe talk about some of the other things you'd like us to go into next, we can probably build a bit of a question sheet for the next time we come on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to put all your details in the show notes. So anyone that wants to make contact, that's where you'll find the information. But thank you again, brother.
Beautiful, brother. Thank you.